Singh, your podcast host, and I'd like to welcome you to the My Brand HQ podcast, all things personal branding for career acceleration. This podcast is for talented, ambitious career professionals like you who are wanting to be perceived as a thought leader, to be top of mind to those that matter, and to make an impact and stand out, be that in your team, your organization, or your industry, and to be inspired by other successful leaders. I will be interviewing high-achieving career professionals who have carved out a successful career in their field and are open to sharing their career journey, their challenges, their learnings and insights with you, someone who is looking to establish your personal brand and accelerate your career. Through my personal branding and coaching practice, I enable career professionals primarily in the technology industry to earn more money, to increase their salary. In fact, I spoke to all of my past clients that I've worked with over the several years and learned that actually overall, they've received an average of 47% increase in their package. Would that be a great place to be? They've also all achieved at least one, if not more, promotions or moved on to a higher level in their career at another organization. And they're looking to advance their career while showing up as the best version of themselves. If this sounds like you, then do reach out to me and let's have a chat. And why do I do this? Well, during my corporate career spanning 25 years, I quickly realized that hard work alone was not enough to get me to where I wanted to be and the success that I strive for. And my belief is that hard work, coupled with creating and establishing a strong personal brand, can both influence and accelerate your career and get you to where you want to be. On today's episode of My Brand HQ podcast, I'm going to be speaking to Jennifer Opal. Jennifer is a DevOps engineer at the BT Group. She's also a tech, neurodiversity and inclusion advocate, as well as a multi-award winning blogger and speaker. With no degree, dyslexia, dyspraxia and ADHD, Jennifer started her first job in tech as a software engineer, working in test automation after learning to code in March 2019. Now a DevOps and big data engineer, Jennifer uses her voice to inspire others to learn how to code and to contribute to the tech industry, no matter where they are in the world. Furthermore, Jennifer launched her own platform during lockdown via jenniferopal.co, where she exclusively shares her blogs. And then she launched the Opal newsletter, which features her latest blog, information on coding opportunities for others to learn how to code, as well as free guides for her subscribers to download and to share. Jennifer has gained many nominations and has been named on multiple award shortlists during her short career. And she was recently named as a winner of the Tech Women 100 Award. In today's episode, Jennifer will be sharing with us about her unconventional journey into the world of tech, how she was left feeling isolated in an office of 600 people, her highs and lows of embarking on a new career, why it's time for leadership to advocate for zero tolerance to discrimination in the workplace, and how encouraging inclusion is just as critical as encouraging diversity. So let's head over and hear what Jennifer has to say. Jennifer, hi there, and welcome to the My Brand HQ podcast. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am very well. It's lovely to see you. So thank you for taking time out to talk to me today.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. I'd like to jump straight in because there's a lot I want to cover off with you and have you share with us today. So tell me firstly about your unconventional, let's say, journey into the technology industry.
Yeah, so I got my first introduction to tech in October 2017, and I was a second year student studying business and French. I've since dropped out, but that's a story for another day. So I got my first introduction with Code First Girls, and Code First Girls is a social enterprise in the UK that focuses on teaching and introducing women and non-binaries to coding and literally try and encourage them to really think about a career in tech. So I got a place on an introductory course teaching front-end web development. It was like once a week for about 2 months. And that was the course that really made me see that getting into tech was something that I actually wanted to do. Fast forward a year to November 2018, Code First Girls collaborated with a telecommunications company in the UK to deliver a program that would give women and non-binaries the coding skills up to a level of a junior developer, a junior software engineer. And there was also the opportunity to become an engineer yourself. So that's what I did. I got into the course. It was 4 months long. I was in my final year of my degree. And I got the job. And the offer was a position in Belfast. So being the London girl that I am, I just decided to just drop out of uni, pack up and just move to Belfast and take this opportunity. And that's where I've been since then.
Wow, amazing. It's all happened so fast for you, hasn't it?
Yeah.
You were sort of going through your degree, not quite sure where you were heading, and then suddenly this opportunity came up for you and you grabbed it. And I also like the fact that you were happy to also grab that opportunity to go to Belfast, which is, you're, as you say, a London girl, never been there, and just go for it and see what happens, right?
100%. Sometimes opportunities just come to you that way, like I think for me at that time when I got the offer, I knew that there was a chance I probably wouldn't get that position in any other way, having no STEM qualifications. And the fact that this was just presented to me, I just had to grab it and was like, you know what, I'm just going to take the plunge and take it. Uni will always be there. I can always go back, but I don't regret my decision at all.
Good. And yeah, you're right. You can always go back if you chose to later on. So that's absolutely great. And so tell me, what has your experience been to date in terms of working in software engineering? So it's been what, a couple of years now?
Yeah, so it'll be 2 years in March.
Okay.
It's been incredible. It's also been challenging. So it's been very up and down. I would say the ups have been, well, I'll start with the downs. I feel like the downs will be like a better place to start, and then we'll lift up the mood and say the ups and stuff. But in terms of the downs, it's lonely, definitely lonely. Being the only Black woman here and being Black and also being neurodivergent, those two labels upon yourself, it can really be challenging to try and fit in and trying to get people to understand your experiences. There's not a lot of Black women in tech. I think the last statistic that I was aware of was Black women representing 0.7% of the tech workforce, which is just ridiculous.
That is,
But
I didn't realize it was that low.
Yeah, it's incredibly low. And I think like that kind of shows just how lonely it can be for a lot of Black women in the tech space. When you do enter the tech space, you are faced with having to learn something new, having to work with people that may not have worked with someone that's Black or someone that's neurodivergent before. So there's those type of challenges, and it definitely had an impact on my mental health. It definitely made me also more vocal in sharing with others what my experience is, because I feel like sometimes people don't realize just how the color of your skin and your gender and your differences can really make you feel isolated. So for me, the great thing about my experience is that it has allowed people to have that conversation about inclusion within their workplaces and whether it's actually working. And I think sometimes we kind of brush off the inclusion side and focus a lot more on the diversity. It's just like bring them in, bring in Black people, bring in neurodivergent, bring in
more
people,
women and
etc. Yeah, they just keep going and going, but they don't focus on the working environment for these people that you are bringing in. And then it ends up being more of an issue when they end up going and leaving and finding somewhere else that will be more accepting of them, where they can bring their full selves to work, because that also helps to contribute to productivity and their confidence and their technical growth. Is that the environment is supportive of who they are. And if it isn't, it doesn't cater to that, it will definitely have an impact on them. So sharing that experience on social media as well has allowed other people to connect with me and also see me as an inspiration, which is not what I was expecting, but people inspired by my journey to say, wow, like if you can do it, then I know that I can do it. I know that I can get into tech. And I'm thankful that I have found peace in being uncomfortable with myself, to put myself out there and share my experiences so that people can see the differences as well as celebrating. And if it's a case where you are concerned or worried about entering tech because you're different, then there's no reason to be. But if you do enter the space and they're not supportive, then you're just highlighting an issue. You're not the problem. It's where you are that's the problem. But to be winning awards and shortlistings and nominations, it was just so crazy to me and so out of not what I was expecting. Really wasn't, but I'm thankful. I'm really thankful.
And what other upsides have there been?
Yeah, so I would say the most recent upside was winning the Tech Women 100 Award.
Congratulations, I did see that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was an incredible moment. And earlier this year, winning the Rising Star Award at the Black Tech Achievement Awards and being interviewed for the BBC. But also just like having people reach out. I feel like that's like the best prize for me, is people from all over the world. People that see the reflection in me, whether they are Black, whether they're women, whether they're neurodivergent, and seeing their reflection in me to say, wow, like I see that you are dyslexic as well. I see you have ADHD too. I see you are dyspraxic, or you're a Black woman, you don't have a degree. And those are things that I see in myself, but you are the example to show me that despite that, there's still a way for me to actually move into what it is I want to move into. So I am thankful for those. I feel like of all the prizes, it's just people reaching out and sharing their experiences with me. I feel so blessed to be in that position.
Yeah, and I understand that, because it's you're being perceived as a role model now for other people and inspiring other people to take those first steps, whereas before maybe they felt they didn't have that, they didn't know if it was possible, but you're showing people that now it is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Honestly, not what I was expecting to happen from my journey here, because it has been really hard. It has been really hard to try and stay motivated and try and stay encouraged, despite having to kind of be different and not try and think of your differences to kind of hold you back. But I'm thankful that I have a community of people that have rallied around me, and not just like in Northern Ireland, but also outside of Northern Ireland, all over the world. And that keeps me encouraged and keeps me pushing.
And it also shows, to me, it's a great example of taking that risk of trying something new, something that you don't really know, and seeing what happens. And it's propelled you globally now to people, to be that role model for others, which is phenomenal. So I take my hat off to you.
Thank you so much.
And tell me a little bit about what led you to start blogging about your tech journey. Where did that start from?
So when I moved to Belfast, it was very much a culture shock. Coming from London, for those that have been to London, like a lot of major capital cities, it's incredibly diverse and multicultural and cosmopolitan. And coming to Belfast, it was so quiet and so relaxed and not very ethnically diverse. But at first I thought, you know what, kind of like London, there are pockets of London where it's a lot more diverse than other areas. So in my mind, I thought, you know what, maybe that's the reason why I haven't seen a Black person yet, but we'll see what happens. But when I did go in for my first day, I realized the difference. So it was like, when I walked in, I saw like looks of surprise from people, and I don't think they realized that they actually made that expression, but they looked at me like, oh, I wasn't ready for this, or whoa, what? Like they looked really confused and surprised by me coming in. And I don't know, maybe it was my loud personality or the fact that I was very much sticking out like a sore thumb in that room. But I guess after like a few days of, trying to walk around the building to see if there was other people that I could connect with that looked like me, I came to discover that there wasn't anyone. It was just me and a building full of 600 people. And it was just like wow, I don't know how to handle this. I don't know how to feel about this. And I don't know I've never been in this position to know what to do. And despite having conversations with my manager at the time, it still was, I hear you, but I can never understand, but we support you. And I think what I wanted to hear is someone understanding. And there wasn't anyone, there still isn't anyone that can understand in terms of in my space. So it can definitely have its challenges trying to just share what you're feeling, but no one being able to connect and relate to you in that experience.
And how did that leave you feeling?
It definitely had an impact on my mental health. And it was so frustrating because I don't think that anyone really understood. So I found like I was taking days off, or I wasn't very connected to what it is I needed to do in terms of my job. And I could see that I wasn't pushing myself or engaging as much as I wish I could have. And I think that definitely affected that. It definitely did. And I think like taking days off, but I think taking days off for mental health, but having to use your annual leave to do it, it was just like, ugh, okay. I think that's kind of a sign that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the corporate space in terms of mental health, but it definitely didn't leave me feeling good. It didn't. And I debated. I was ready to quit. I was really ready to go. I was just like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be out here. I want to pack up and go. And I was encouraged by, I want to get so emotional. Why am I getting emotional? But I was encouraged by two other women that was on the program with me, and they moved over to Belfast as well. And even though we're working in different teams, it was having them around me to keep me encouraged and be there as a support that really helped me to actually stay on for longer and just push myself and try and just learn as much as possible in the position that I was in. So it definitely yeah, it was a tough time. But even just thinking about it, it's like, wow, like it really just makes me really emotional. But yeah, what's sad is that there are people that are going through what I went through and have been through what I went through and totally get it. And it shouldn't be a norm. It should be something that really raises alarm bells, not for the person, but more so for the environment. And I think that's where there's a bit of a disconnect of where work needs to be done and understanding that more.
And is that what drove you to start blogging about it and then sharing?
Yeah, it became an outlet. It really did. It was the only way for me that I felt that I could pour out what I was feeling, because there was no one else I could pour it out to. And social media is diverse. And that was the best way for me to reach out to people and just share what was on my heart and have people come to me and say, I totally get where you're coming from. I've been where you've been. I'm sorry that you're going through what you're going through. Offering to have calls with me, offering to sit with me and speak with me and hear me out. And it was just like, why is this a norm? Why is this something so common? And I think that's why I chose to see myself as an advocate for not just neurodiversity, but inclusion specifically, because I think that we focus way too much on diversity, and we don't focus on making the right changes to accommodate the people that are diverse, that represent diverse backgrounds. So yeah, blogging became an outlet. It still is. I have no issue sharing what's on my heart and what's on my mind. And I think that's what has brought me the attention that I have received since getting into tech, is that I'm not afraid to share what I'm feeling. I know in some environments there could be like, people might see it as a consequence, might lose their job, or etc. But for me, this is what you get, and if I am sharing what it is I'm feeling in the environment, you have to ask yourself, why is it that way? You know, the management, the corporation, they have to ask themselves, why is she feeling that way? Because I'm not the problem. I'm just experiencing the problem. You have to solve the problem. So yeah, it definitely it's a big topic, that one.
It is. We could probably do another interview on that one.
Yeah.
And so tell me, how have you adapted to life in Belfast, coming from London, growing up, being, you know, born and grown up there? How has that changed for you? How have you settled in?
I think like one thing that it has changed for me is being calm. Like, London is so hustle and bustle. If you walk slowly, it's rude. Like, walk fast. How
You
dare
get
you
in
walk
people's
slowly?
way.
Yeah, like, how
Way.
dare you? Like, if you get off the train, if you're not up those stairs in 20 seconds, how disrespectful of you to walk slowly up those steps. So for me, I think that Belfast has definitely taught me to just slow down, and that it's okay to slow down and just relax and just be at peace with myself. It's a beautiful city. It's a small city. It's a beautiful city, and it's surrounded by hills and mountains. And I find it so refreshing coming from the smokiness of London congestion charged roads and the air pollution. So it's a great feeling. But I've also had chances to connect with other Black women in Belfast. And there's not many of us, and we don't all work in tech. Some are medical students, etc. But it's really good that I found a group of women that I can just be myself with and talk to, and not feel and know that they understand my experience.
Yeah, no, that is really important. It's good that you're able to build up that community there. And so tell me, what would you say has been your biggest challenge to date?
Biggest challenge to date is that's a tough one, because there's quite a few challenges, and I'm trying to think of the main one that's actually like stuck out. But I would say my biggest challenge is trying to move away from, I guess, trying to move away from being the token. I feel like sometimes for people that do come in from diverse backgrounds, and from what people have shared with me, it's a very common thing for those that are in underrepresented backgrounds to be in positions where they are suddenly the spokesperson for the community within the company, or they are in positions where they are let me try and give an example. Like, they are celebrated in terms of, winning awards or doing particular work or mentoring or etc. But they are not really encouraged in terms of their growth within their career. People from diverse backgrounds are coming into tech to learn about tech and to learn about coding or whatever the job role is in the tech industry. They want to be able to take those skills and go somewhere else. But what I've struggled with is trying to keep encouraged to learn technically, not just within the company, but also independently. And it can be hard because it's like you have those challenges in terms of being alone and being the only one. So you have that level of like the mental health issues that will have an impact on that, which no one else understands. And then you're trying to kind of prove yourself in that space. And then you're trying to grow technically. And it can get a lot. It can get really overwhelming. So I think that's something that I've tried to step away from, to try and focus more on being seen for not just what I do outside of work, but what I do within work, and for people to see I am very much capable, I can do this, and I got this job for a reason. But please don't contact me all the time just to speak for the company or to ask me about changes that will impact many people that are going through what I'm going through. I think that I think sometimes organizations depend too much on the diverse to make those differences, and it starts from the top, not from the bottom. And I feel like some companies need to understand that.
Yeah. And it's almost what I'm hearing there is you want to be recognized for your talent, your expertise, the value you're bringing to the organization, and not just because you're unique.
Yeah,
in what you're
I
doing.
think that's what it is. Yeah, I think like there's nothing wrong with being unique.
No, of course.
Nothing wrong with that. I think that being unique, especially in the tech space, is an incredible gift, and I think that is something that no one should be ashamed of. And but I think that sometimes some organizations use those differences within one person or a few people to kind of be that spokesperson, that token to say, look, we have a Black person here. Look, she has dyslexia. Look at her. And we hired her. So, you know, we don't want to be that person, you know, like we do want to, we want to, I want to come in and just learn something every day, and I do. But I do feel like sometimes I am the token. And I'm glad that, you know, I have support from people, and people are willing to try and like reach out to me to ask me questions, to try and understand. But in the same sentence, it can get really overwhelming, and it can definitely get exhausting sometimes, and it can have impacts on other areas for you to grow technically in the tech space. So that's something that I really struggled with. Yeah. Still am, really. Yeah.
Wow. So tell me then, what can we, I know this is a whole big subject, but just a couple of pointers for us. What can we do to tackle diversity in the workplace, ethnic diversity, inclusion? What would you kind of recommend to organizations that they could start to make progress towards?
I think the first thing for me is that the changes need to begin from the top. I think that a lot of organizations focus on people at the bottom. What we sometimes forget is that majority of the time when companies do diverse hires, they're normally brought in junior positions, sometimes even mid-level positions. But you can't expect someone from the bottom of the road to kind of shout to someone at the top of the road to actually hear them. It's not going to happen. But someone at the top can really like be an example to say,
advocate.
This is what, yeah, and advocate, because I feel like sometimes people at the top will kind of stay quiet on particular things until it's absolutely necessary to actually speak on it. So what we suddenly saw, for example, during the Black Lives Matter after the murder of Judge George Floyd, suddenly everyone started speaking about it. And most importantly, people at the top started speaking about racism all of a sudden. But why wasn't this a topic before a man was murdered on the internet? Why wasn't this a topic when Trayvon Martin was murdered? When Michael Brown, I can go on forever, but there's been numerous incidents. But because this particular incident caused such an uproar all over, that you couldn't get away from it. And because we're in a lockdown, everyone was forced to actually absorb this information and watch that video of someone's life slipping away. And it created the conversation of racism within the workplace and outside of it. But that's when people at the top started talking. But it has to be a regular thing. It can't just be when there's an uproar. It has to be a pattern of behavior from you, because if I can speak about it, but I also need support from the top to be able to say, I support what she's saying. I support what they are saying. I support what he is saying. But I don't think that a lot of people in C-suite positions or even senior positions do that. And that's something that we need to discuss. And even sometimes for managers as well, for myself, when that happened, I felt an element of exhaustion, because this is something that Black people have been experiencing all the time, even in the UK. And I think that, yes, gun crime, like the police officers in the UK, they walk around with guns, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not guilty, you know, and they're not like involved in, you know, racism or anything like that. But I think that like even like being judged by your race by the police and things like that, incidents like that do happen in the UK, and it's not talked about enough. But I think that companies need to ask yourself, why didn't you talk about it before? Why now? And is that something that, is there work that you need to do for yourself? Do you need to educate yourself in particular things? Do you have an unconscious bias? Is there a fear of saying the wrong thing? And that's where you have to kind of say, okay, there's education that I need to receive. Secondly, don't depend on people from diverse backgrounds to educate you. We have the internet, and the internet is an absolute blessing of information. And I was strongly encouraged to just have a look. And there's so many incredible books out there that you can read to educate yourself and understand why we feel what we feel. And I think that it should be something that people choose and make themselves aware. And lastly, I would say is that you have to find ways of teaching senior or even people in managerial positions in the company to be comfortable to have those conversations with staff from diverse backgrounds. So for myself, unfortunately, no one spoke to me. No one spoke to me when that happened. So when the protests were happening, I was absolutely exhausted. I'm reaching out to my other Black colleagues to check how they are. Same thing, they're absolutely exhausted. They took a day off, they took a week off. It was hard. It had an impact on the mental health of almost every Black person that I know within where I work and outside of it. But a lot of managers didn't ask the question, how are you? And we do ask those questions in terms of mental health, but why don't we ask those questions in other spaces and for other reasons? And I think that we have to ask ourselves, what are we teaching our managers? Because yes, I'm in a predominantly white environment, but it doesn't mean that there's no way that someone Black won't walk through that door. And you have to be comfortable to have those conversations when things like this do happen. And God forbid it won't happen again, but to be comfortable in asking those questions, you know, even in Black History Month, there's no harm in saying Happy Black History Month, you know, that feels nice, you know, and it shows that you're considerate, and sharing it and promoting it amongst the team. Don't make that person feel like they're not being heard or that they're invisible, because it's already hard enough being the only one, but we need to have people around us to let us know that we're being seen for more than just our differences.
Yeah. And so part of what I'm hearing there is a lack of awareness and also a lack of education.
Yeah.
And so it's, I guess, the question, and this isn't necessarily for you, but the question of the conversation is, whose responsibility is it within organizations to create that change? I mean, I know you've recognized it should start from the top down, but what do people need to do? Because if I play devil's advocate and I say, well, maybe people fear saying the wrong thing for that fear of offending, and then we go on to unconscious bias, which is again another conversation.
Yeah,
it's almost a case of where do we start really to tackle it?
I think for me, it's first acknowledging the issue, encouraging self-reflection amongst everyone. And I'm not talking just people in managerial positions and in the C-suite, but the reason why I mention mostly like those in the C-suite is because they are the face of our companies and our organizations, and what they say will have an impact on everybody. And when they speak, we listen because of the position that they are in. And I think that like the reason why I say it needs to start with them, because they need to be comfortable in having that conversation in a wider space. They need to be comfortable to put their face onto, you know, a message of saying, Black Lives Matter and saying, you know, we don't tolerate racism or sexism or any type of discrimination, you have to put your face to that message. It's important because it will also hopefully force people that are working underneath you, no matter what position they're in, to ask themselves those questions too. And I also think that we have to invest in the right training. And I don't think it's enough to just have an online course. We need to find ways of holding accountability. And I don't have the full answer to that, but we have to find ways of holding people accountable when they do learn topics like unconscious bias, etc. How do we hold them accountable? And I don't have an answer to that question, but I think it's necessary that we look at that. But that's why I say it starts from the top, because they're the example, they're the face. Everyone knows who the CEO of this company is or that company is. So their voices have a huge impact and can make a huge difference. And I don't think some of them realize that sometimes, but it can make a change.
Yeah. And just to surmise what you said there in terms of what can we really do? I mean, what you shared there is fantastic in terms of there's so many options, let's say, but ultimately it's coming down to, particularly in the bigger organizations, the C-suite, the executives, the leadership, to leverage their positions of influence, I would say, and to not be afraid of associating themselves with these controversial, let's say, matters, and being seen as advocates of zero tolerance when it comes to discrimination in the workplace.
Yeah.
So it's almost like they're the role models, they're setting the standard. And as you say, everyone knows them, everyone will see them, they're the influencers. And that will filter down.
100%. And I also think it'll have a positive impact as well, because I think that when a company speaks on topics like this, it brings people from diverse backgrounds to want to work for your company. So they will come to you and say, wow, well, the CEO of this company said that they don't tolerate racism. They said that they're investing in teaching their staff about unconscious bias and they're not tolerating any discrimination. I want to work there. That's where I want to be. And that can help. And I think that when we are vocal and we're using our platforms in that way, it really does have an impact and make a difference in the long run, because then you'll start to see people from other walks of life wanting to be a part of an environment that supports their difference and supports them in the struggles that they may face in the future, whether it be racism or any type of discrimination. You have a CEO that will say, no, we won't stand for that, you know? And I think that's why I think that starting from that point, it can make a difference. But it needs to be, it shouldn't be performative. It should definitely be something that you feel. Because if it's a case where someone experiences what you stand against and there's no one to support that person, it can backfire. So it has to be something that you truly believe. Yeah. If you don't believe, then stay quiet, because the truth comes out and someone will bring something up, you know, anything can happen, but you have to believe in what you're saying. And it can't just be a statement. It can't just be an email. It can't be a newsletter or a YouTube video. It needs to be what you truly feel.
Yeah, which is reflective of your actions and what 100% to speak up and share.
Yeah, definitely.
Powerful and a huge topic. Maybe something worth us exploring again at a later date.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell me, what have been your biggest highlights so far in your career, and particularly in your very short career in tech? Because I think, although it's short, there's been a lot.
I know, it's been huge. I guess for me, it's just how much I've grown as a person. Because I didn't really think that what I experienced would result in this. I genuinely didn't. And you don't ever think that something like this will happen anyway, you know, but I'm I think for me, the biggest highlight is just the amount of people that just rally around. And when I got my first shortlist nomination for the Women in Software Power List in 2019, and it was by computerweekly.com and Makers Academy. And I was I think I was about 3 months into my career. I still didn't know what I was doing at work, but I was figuring it out. And then to suddenly win, like to suddenly get a shortlisting, and I was like, what did I do? You know, I was so confused. I'm like, what did I do? You know, like I still don't know how to do a coding challenge. I'd be awful. But what I found incredible is that of the shortlistings and the wins that I've had this year, and being named as one of the most influential Black voices in tech last year as well was a powerful moment for me. And that was a shortlist of 50 by Tech Nation. And when I was named as one of those voices, I was just like, wow, like I really don't understand. And I still struggle to understand what it was people were seeing. But I think that sometimes people will see something in you that you don't see in yourself. And you might, well, for me, I question, you know, I question my confidence, I question my technical knowledge, and I struggle to put sentences together because of my dyslexia, etc. But despite all of that, people say you can and you are. And even when you feel that you're not, all of these nominations and the support and the people that I've connected with, from OBE winners to MBE winners and CEOs, and even people like just learning to code in places like Congo or Zambia, or it's just like, wow, like I am capable, I am doing things, I am inspiring people. And I wasn't, like I said this so many times already, but I really wasn't expecting this to happen. But I'm grateful for that position. And I think that, you know, I'm still learning and still trying to find my place in tech in terms of what I enjoy, what fascinates me, what I want to contribute technically to the world of tech. And I'm still trying to find that space and navigate that. But even while I'm trying to find that space, I'm making a difference to somebody else. And that's a blessing in itself. So there's been many highlights, but all in all, just this journey has been one incredible highlight for me. Not one thing that I can pick that can just say, this sums up everything. It's just been understanding the value of my voice, my leadership, inspiring other people, connecting with people all over the world, and being patient with myself and having people around me be patient with me as I navigate this crazy world we call tech.
Yeah, I mean, I look at what you've accomplished in such a short time, and I believe it's truly phenomenal. And you want to be recognizing that and acknowledging that for everything you're doing, because, you know, if I was to put it in a couple of words, I'd say a global influencer in the world of tech, because that's what you're doing. You're influencing, you're inspiring, and you're showing others what is possible for them. And that's huge. That is huge.
I was super sorry. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You are welcome. You are welcome. So I have one last question. Tell me, what is next for you?
Oh, wow. My ADHD brain has so many ideas because it just never stops thinking of incredible ways that I could make an impact. I don't know what's next. I think there's so many ideas, I think, for me. And one thing that I really want to do is teach people how to code, especially back home in Congo. I was born and raised in London, but my parents moved to the UK in 1990, the year that I was born. And I was born in London, but I've always wanted to go to Congo and teach others how to code. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like just women, but coding is such an incredible skill. And I would love to find ways of giving back and teaching others how to code. A lot of people, even my mom is super proud of me. She has no idea what I do, but whenever I'm in the water, she's like, that's my daughter. And I'm like, I'm so happy, you know, I'm so happy that you're proud. And I'm happy that she made that sacrifice to come to the UK at the age of 21 and sacrifice a dream for us to have a better life. And this is the result of that sacrifice. So I'm grateful for her. But giving back in Congo and giving back in the UK and other parts of the world is something that I really, really want to do. And I think that's the first thing. Second thing that I would also say is trying to find ways of being creative in tech. I love big data. I find big data fascinating, and I find machine learning even more fascinating. And it's something that I'm really interested in learning more about. And I do want to get into finding ways of how to use big data in creative spaces. Augmented reality is something that I've really been fascinated with, and learning about that independently is completely different to what I do at work. But I find it so interesting how you can create experiences using a technology like that. But there's so much, and I don't know what will be first, but I know that it will happen in its own time. But in the meantime, I'll just keep sharing my journey and keep sharing where I'm at in the meantime. So yeah.
Incredible. And yeah, keep sharing your learnings, your experiences, because it's making a difference to so many people. Jennifer, Opal, I would like to say a sincere thank you for chatting with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please do subscribe to the show so you don't miss any future episodes. And remember to leave a review telling us about your key learnings and what you enjoyed the most. And do share this podcast with your friends and colleagues so we can spread the word on the importance of personal branding when it comes to your career advancement. And also ensure that others can benefit from these invaluable insights from many inspirational leaders. I will be eternally grateful. And if you are looking to earn more money, to get promoted, to secure your next role and advance your career, and would like me to support you personally on that journey to get you there, then reach out to me and let's arrange a chat. Alternatively, why don't you check out my personal branding launchpad, a group training and mentoring program. Finally, if you'd like to connect with me directly, then do reach out and direct message me on LinkedIn. You can find the link as well as any other resources mentioned in the show notes. I'll see you next time.